Hello, folks, and welcome. This is Dan from Tabletop Gaming Guild, coming at you today with a rules overview. Today, I am doing a rules overview for Fallout Shelter, the board game. Alright, folks, in Fallout Shelter, the board game, you and your fellow players are competing for the position of Overseer, or the boss, of a underground vault in the Fallout universe. The player who scores the most happiness before the end of the game will be the winner. You score happiness by expanding the vault, dealing with threats, and a few other minor ways. I have set up the game for 2 players here. Each round only has 3 phases. The first phase is actually called Spawn Threats. You skip this the very first turn of the game, so I will explain that later. The second phase is called Place Dwellers. This is standard worker placement affair. And then in the third phase, you recall dwellers and start the next round. At the beginning of the game, you start with 2 dweller figures with the opportunity to get some more. So on a player's turn, during the place dwellers phase, they place a dweller on one of these spots. Each of these circles represents basically a different worker placement style action. You put your worker on a spot, pay the cost, if applicable, get the reward. The red icons directly above the spot represent the cost. These spots over here cost water resources. This spot here costs food resources. These spots over here don't cost anything. The green icons at the top of the card represent the goodies that you will get when you go to that spot. This is 3 different kinds of resources: power, food, and water. When you do collect resources, you simply mark them on your personal player board with these fancy green cubes. If I were to collect 2 power, I would take 2 green cubes and put them right there on my power. There is a maximum of 6 resources of each type that you can store on your player board at any given point in time. If I did have 6 power and I collected more power for whatever reason, I would simply lose the excess. This card here, the Wasteland, this gift icon means that you can go grab a card from the item display, and I'll show you that in a bit. This icon here indicates that you refresh the item array and then take a gift item. Over here is the item array. So if you are to take an item, you can take any of the face-up items. If you need to reset the item offer, all 3 cards that are in the offer go to a discard pile and 3 new cards come out. The other default actions that are available to you before new buildings are added, and we'll get to that shortly, there's this action, which gives you the first player token so that you become first player for the following round. And then this icon, this up arrow, represents a training icon. If I took that action, at the end of the round when you're recalling the dwellers, you recall the dweller to trained. So in this case, I'm training L, which is luck. I would put the dweller over here next to the L in special to remind myself that it's trained for luck. The following round, if I go to a spot, such as this one, that has an L on it, you effectively get double the effect. So my luck trained person could gather 2 food instead of 1 from this space, or 2 power from this space instead of 1. This space over here is similar in that it trains a dweller There's no letter on that arrow, so you can actually train it to whatever stat you would like. These two actions are actions that will give you more dwellers. You can have up to 7 in a game. This space here costs 3 food. This space here costs water, a food, and you injure the dweller. So similar to training at the end of the round when you recall dwellers, you would put this back in your play area, but you would set it in your play area knocked over like so to indicate that it is injured. A injured dweller can only be placed on a space that has this injured dweller icon on it. Stim-pack icon indicates that the dweller becomes uninjured. It is recommended that if you do take one of these two actions here, you place an extra dweller on that space so that when you recall dwellers at the end of the round, you collect your extra dweller. So I would take one out of my supply, put it there. Once you start collecting some resources and do some other stuff, you may want to start taking this action. Each player has their own elevator in the vault. You can go to that space. You pay a cost based on the room that you want to build. Over here, there's a room supply. In order to build this outfit workshop, it takes 2 water and 3 power. To build this nuclear reactor, it takes 5 power. To build this science lab, it takes 3 power and 1 resource of your choice. So when you go to this space, you pay the cost for the room that you want to build. You take that building, add it to your floor of the vault. When you build a room into your vault, it does have to go immediately next to your elevator or next to another room that you've already built. And then for building a room, you score 2 happiness and put the room into play. That's what that hammer icon indicates. Now, much later in the game, you will have the opportunity to go to these new action spots that you put into play as buildings are created. If you go to a spot that's on your level of the vault, it's pretty much normal. You pay the cost. If it's there, you get a resources. You can, however, go and visit somebody else's level of the vault. If you do so, that player gains a resource of their choice. So if I go to the garden to collect 3 food, the blue player would collect a resource of their choice. You can, of course, if you don't want to or simply can't place a dweller, you can pass. If you pass, then you don't take any more turns, and anybody who still has workers placed finish out the round. This worker placement spot here on the living quarters represents a linked space. You do need to place 2 dwellers into the living quarters in order to take that action. This space is free, but this space costs a food, and of course the reward there is an extra dweller. Over the course of the game, you will of course be acquiring some number of items. The items will be able to provide you with various benefits. This German Shepherd, for example, will allow you to exchange between food and power at a 1-to-1 rate. It says to exhaust to do this. To exhaust a card, you simply turn it on its side because you can only use it once per round. They'll unexhaust or untap at the end of the round. This item, just as an example, allows you to train a dweller for endurance. This item is a weapon and will add a bonus when fighting threats. There are also items like this chemistry flask that will give you additional end game points based on various conditions. This one gives you 1 happiness for every 2 water you have in your possession. At the end of the round, you pull back all the dwellers that you've placed, unexhaust or untap any items that you might have used during the round, and the next round starts. The first player token does not move by itself. There's an action that allows you to take it from other people. Starting at the second round, and from then on in the game, threats are spawned in random locations around the vault. For each level of the vault, starting with the topmost row, roll 2 dice, add them together, and see what their results are. If you take a real close look at these rooms, you can see the results. So this column is a 2, this one's a 3, this one's a 4, and so on and so forth down the line. If you roll a 7, or is there's no room in the space that you rolled, then no threat is spawned. So I rolled a 7. That means that no roll is spawned. If I had rolled an 8, then I would take a threat card and put it here on this level. You do this for each level of the vault. So the red player would roll the dice, put a threat on a 6, and then the blue player would roll the dice, and they got a 7, so no further threats are spawned. In the subsequent rounds, these spaces are effectively blocked. You can't go here, for example, to gather water. You can only go there to fight these glowing rad roaches. Ditto here with this glowing rad scorpion. This red icon with the number next to it indicates that the cost of going there is a fight. When you place a dweller in this space, you have to roll both dice, add together the result, and if the result is equal to or greater than the number shown on the icon, the dweller has beat the creature. If the result is less than the number shown on the icon, your dweller loses. If you win, you get the reward. In this case, a happiness and a resource of your choice. And the threat is discarded, removed from the board. If you fail, you don't get any reward, and the dweller becomes injured. And any threat that is in the vault where a dweller did not go, or a dweller was injured at that threat, remains for the following rounds. Small side note, if you do visit a threat on the level of a vault that is not yours, then the owning player does not get a free resource. So the game ends when the threat deck runs out, or any single player has built their 6th room on their level of the vault. Each vault level only has space for 6 rooms total. Once either of those things happens, the players do finish out the current round of play until everyone's passed or completed placing all their vault dwellers. And then at the end of that round, each player has to discard 1 happiness for each threat that is on their level of the vault. And of course, the player with the most happiness wins. That is Fallout Shelter in a nutshell, folks. If I forgot something, messed something up, or otherwise made an error, please make a comment down below. I love learning games, but we all learn better when we learn together. Hey folks, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, hit like, or even subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, see you around.